She thought no one was watching. In the quiet of the millionaire's garden, a black girl began to dance, barefoot on the grass, her movements full of life. Beside her sat his disabled daughter, clapping weakly, her laughter breaking the silence. To them it was a moment of freedom. But when the father appeared at the edge of the path, everything changed. What seemed like a harmless dance would soon unravel into something no one expected. The garden was the daughter's refuge. Roses lined the stone walls, and sunlight streamed through the branches of old oak trees, where the air smelled of jasmine and fresh earth. Here, away from the grandeur of the mansion, she often sat in her chair, quiet, withdrawn, watching the world from behind pale, tired eyes. The black girl was never meant to join her there. Her duties belonged elsewhere, carrying trays, polishing silver, tending to the corners of the house where no one cared to look. But something about the child's loneliness called to her. On this afternoon, while the rest of the household buzzed indoors, she lingered by the garden's edge, her heart beating with an impulse she could not explain. She stepped onto the grass and began to move. Her feet brushed the earth with a rhythm that came from somewhere deep inside her, arms swaying in the warm breeze. The little girl's face lit up, her hands twitching as though she wished to join in. Her laughter bubbled out, fragile but beautiful, filling the garden with a joy it had long been missing. For the dancer, time disappeared. She forgot about the rules, the walls, the silent lines of class and color that bound her place in the world. In that moment, she wasn't a servant, and the child wasn't fragile. They were simply two souls sharing something pure. What she didn't know was that this act of kindness was already being watched, and that soon her dance would collide with a force that could shatter it all. The garden seemed alive with their laughter, but joy is a fragile thing in places ruled by power. Behind the trimmed hedges, a maid paused at the sight, her face stiffening before she hurried back toward the mansion. A gardener froze mid-step, the bouquet of fresh roses trembling in his hands as he stared. Whispers began to pass like shadows between the walls. Still, the black girl continued to dance. Each step carried lightness, each twirl a quiet defiance of the silence that usually cloaked her existence. The little girl clapped harder, her weak arms trembling as her voice rose, into giggles that startled birds from the branches above. The dancer's heart soared at the sound, yet deep inside fear gnawed at her. She knew the rules of this place. She knew joy was not hers to give. And then it came, the sound of heavy footsteps on the gravel path. Slow, deliberate. The garden seemed to hold its breath as the figure emerged from the shadows of the house. The millionaire. His presence was like a storm rolling in, his tailored suit too sharp for the softness of the garden, his eyes narrowing at the scene before him. The black girl froze mid-step, her chest tight. The daughter's laughter stilled, replaced by silence as her father's shadow fell across her chair. He looked not at his child's smile, but at the dancer, the servant who had crossed into his world. The air thickened, each second stretching long, unbearable. Around them, petals fell from the roses, drifting silently to the ground. The dance had ended, but the consequences were only beginning. The garden, once filled with laughter, now felt colder than stone. The millionaire's gaze cut through the air like a blade, fixed on the young dancer, who still stood barefoot on the grass. His jaw tightened, his expression unreadable. But the weight of his silence was heavier than words. The black girl lowered her eyes, her body trembling. She wanted to explain, to say it was just a dance, nothing more. But deep inside she knew that no explanation could erase what he saw. His daughter, fragile and disabled, finding joy not in the world he built, but in the presence of someone he considered beneath them. He stepped closer, the gravel crunching under his shoes. The child in the chair reached out with a shaking hand, her eyes wide with fear. She tried to speak, her lips forming silent words, pleading not for her father's judgment, but for the girl who had brought her joy. But her voice, too weak to break the moment, was swallowed by the silence. The millionaire's face darkened. To him it was not a dance, it was disobedience, an intrusion into a world carefully guarded by walls of wealth and bloodline. His hand clenched at his side, the tension of years of pride and prejudice boiling beneath the surface. For a moment, it seemed as though the air itself might shatter with his anger. And then it happened. The girl, trembling but unbroken, bent down before his daughter. Slowly, gracefully, She lifted the child's fragile hand and placed it against her heart. With tears glistening in her eyes, she swayed again, guiding the child into the rhythm of her dance. The little girl's face lit up with wonder, a smile breaking through her fear. The sight stunned the onlookers hidden in the shadows. Even the millionaire faltered, his anger meeting a force he could not control, the innocence of his daughter's joy. For a heartbeat, his pride wrestled with the truth unfolding before him. In that moment, the garden was no longer his. It belonged to the two souls moving together, one fragile, one brave, bound not by rules of wealth or color, but by something greater. What the millionaire chose to do next would echo far beyond the garden walls. The garden stood still, as though even the wind dared not move. The millionaire's daughter laughed softly, her small hands still, trembling against the chest of the girl who had given her freedom through dance. For the father, it was a sight he could not easily explain away. His daughter, brighter than she had ever been, her joy flowing from the very person he wished to keep at a distance. Whispers drifted from the mansion windows where servants secretly watched. Some expected him to end it harshly, to shatter the fragile peace with his authority, but he did not move. His pride kept him frozen, his anger caught between the undeniable truth before him and the prejudice carved deep into his heart. The black girl lowered her gaze, ready for punishment, yet unwilling to regret what she had given. She knew that even if he cast her out, the memory of this moment, the laughter, the light in the little girl's eyes would remain, and perhaps that was enough. Finally, the millionaire turned, his voice never leaving his throat, his footsteps retreating toward the house. He had not spoken, yet his silence said everything. The boundaries were still there, the walls still standing. But he could not erase what had been witnessed in his own garden. For the daughter, it was more than just a fleeting dance. It was proof that joy could come from places her father's world refused to see. For the girl who danced, it was a reminder that even in spaces built to keep her small, her spirit could not be silenced. This story is not just about a dance in a garden. It is about the invisible lines drawn by power and race, and the courage it takes to cross them. The question remains, how many more gardens, how many more homes will silence joy before the world learns to embrace it? This wasn't just about a dance in a garden, it was about courage, prejudice, and the joy that refuses to be silenced. If this story moved you, don't let it end here. Share it, talk about it, and ask yourself, how many more stories like this remain unheard? If you felt the message, please like this video, drop your thoughts in the comments, and subscribe for more stories that shine a light on racism and humanity. Together we can make these voices louder.